let's run through this Cardio IQ lipid panel. Now, this is one that I've ordered through Quest, and it's through the Cleveland Heart Labs, as they call it Cardio IQ. It breaks down the cholesterol panel into deeper particle numbers, and it really gives you a higher idea about the risk factors and what's happening versus just a traditional lipid panel. So this is a male. His lipid panel is not looking great. So the total cholesterol is 264. Now, that can be 264 can be made up of a lot of different things. And this is what we're going to break down. Now, we're looking at the HDL next, which is the HDL is the good cholesterol. I like to see that number over 55. Now, normally when people exercise, they'll convert their LDL cholesterol into HDL. And that's a really helpful thing for us to be doing. So this person needs to be adding a little bit more exercise to be able to elevate his HDL. But the real problem is the one that's next, and that's your triglycerides. So triglycerides are really an indication of insulin resistance, too many carbs, sugars, alcohol, too many blood sugar spikes. So when your blood sugar is like steady and rolling through the day, it doesn't normally get stored as triglycerides. But when it goes along and maybe you eat a bagel or maybe you eat starchy veggies or maybe you drink a lot of alcohol, you're spiking the blood sugar. When the blood sugar spikes, then the body has to do something with that extra spike. So it takes that extra sugar and it puts it down as fat cells in the belly. It also will stripe us as like fat, like fatty liver. It's kind of like we're turning into ribeyes, right? Lots of fatty markers all around our body, in our belly fat, in our liver. And that's what it's usually coming from, is just spikes in the blood sugar. So these spikes are really happening to this person, and they weren't really realizing this was happening. So what next steps for this person, just to kind of stop and like address that triglycerides, is to get either a Lingo or a Stelo blood sugar monitor so that we can figure out what's spiking them. And it's probably something they don't even really realize is spiking them. Sometimes people will go on like, I just eat sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, and they can be spiky, or a bag of chips, or rice just at a meal, or couscous, or any kind of grain, pasta, sugars, carbs, alcohol. So sometimes if people are drinking alcohol on the regular, like every night, it can raise your triglycerides. It's really stressful on the liver. So then the triglycerides can rise. So this is my number one issue with this lab, is the triglycerides are high. This is a very modifiable factor. If I'd like the triglycerides to be under 100. So that's a lot. So we really need, in regular traditional labs, they want them to be under 150. I like them to be under 100 because I find that it's just a little bit more of an optimal level. So I don't want blood sugar spikes at all. I want this blood sugar to be rolling. Okay. So the LDL cholesterol is at 171, higher than I want it to be. That ratio between the total cholesterol and the HDL is at 5.5. I like that number to be below 3.5 because that really helps to understand that the cardiovascular risk is a lot lower. So non-HDL cholesterol is a pretty big burden at 216. That's everything but HDL. So these are this person has a lot of cholesterol particles running through the bloodstream, right? Now, let's break the LDLs down. There's the particle number, there's 1,922 particles of LDL. That's a lot. And then when you break it down, the most dangerous of the LDLs is the small particles, because the small particles can get into the walls of the blood vessels and they actually invade the walls and they create a little inflammatory pocket, and they create it can slowly create like a blockage. So those small particles are the most dangerous of the particles. The medium aren't quite as dangerous. The large, we're doing that large HDL, but the mediums are safer. The small are really dangerous with the LDLs. So that's also a concerning number. This is like leading to atherosclerosis and heart disease, okay? Now, we're looking at the HDL, large looks reasonable. LDL pattern, LDL peak size. These are all every one of these numbers screams insulin resistance, too much blood sugar. You remember when we have our blood sugar spike, it stores as triglycerides, but the blood sugar goes up, the insulin goes up, and then the inflammation drives with it. So we have a person who has this sort of like moderate level of inflammation all the time. blood sugars pretty raised, and then triglycerides is raised too. What's interesting is when you look at this person's hemoglobin A1C, it's only at 5.6, which is not extremely high, and insulin is only at 6. So this was a really surprising outlier for me. And this is why it's important to run lots of different markers, because if you depend on just say fasting insulin and hemoglobin A1C, you might not have captured this triglyceride level, which is clearly there's some low level insulin spikes happening enough that it's driving this person into a lot of heart disease. Another marker that's really concerning is the apolipoprotein B. Now, apolipoprotein B is at 156, and that tells me that's how much active atherosclerosis this person is developing on a day-to-day basis. This means active heart disease that's developing. So we have to really this person is really motivated, by the way. So I will be really excited to post another lab maybe in 6 months to do a comparison so that we can see pre and post. This person's going to be getting a blood sugar monitor. So that's always really great to see, because, it's funny. We think that we are better in our minds than we actually are. Oftentimes we're justifying things that we're eating. And so I really like those blood sugar monitors to kind of just show on the person's phone, oh my gosh, you're spiking. And they're like, wait, what? I didn't think that this would spike me. Good to know. I can change this, shift the amount of carbs out, maybe adding more proteins, and stabilize the blood sugar. So what we're thinking about doing as a strategy is really looking at add veggies first for dinner, veggies first, then meat and fat. And then if you're going to do some carbs, do them last. I'd like them to be sprinkled in the top of kind of the stomach is filled with veggies and meats and fats, and then sprinkling of the carbs on the top so that it's a slow release of blood sugar over time. Versus if you flip it, and you do the carbs first, those release right away and the blood sugar is spiked. So we want to really give the body some buffer zone and an opportunity to try to steady the blood sugar and try not to spike. So I think that's going to be strategy number one. I think being able to kind of choose a little bit different variety of foods is number two. Lowering alcohol consumption is going to be number three. And then just figuring out overall how much they're exercising. If we can get that LDL to convert over to HDL, that's going to be a safer, better looking profile. Now, the lipoprotein little a is the last thing we're going to look at, which is under 10. So that's a number that's really hard to change. Most people will have a lipoprotein little a at a certain number, and it pretty much stays there. I mean, some people think about it as a genetic marker, but it's kind of just something that's the way that you process apolipoproteins and how much risk you have from the get-go that is not much in your control. So that's a number that's low for him. So it makes me think that, gosh, this is a real changeable situation, right? If we can get this blood sugar under control, lower the triglycerides, lower all these ratios, and lower the LDL small particles, that will lower apolipoprotein B, and that'll really turn this person around, because this person just steaming full steam ahead, this is going to be a heart attack at some point. So really happy that we ran these labs, and I'd be happy to update you at some point, because this person's pretty motivated. It's probably going to be pretty fun to see the change. So that's the Cardio IQ. Ask for it. Your doctor can get it for you. It's just a request. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can get it through LabCorp as well. This is just Cleveland Heart Labs. They send out for it. So ask your doctor for this. This is really great information to know so that you can know a little bit more than just your traditional lipid panel.